Commission will come to order at 7 p.m. Secretary, please call roll.
Dennis Sabolsky.
Here.
Kendra Barberina is here. Tim Boyd.
Here.
Bob Dorshevitz.
Here.
Gail Grieger.
Here.
John Itzel.
Here.
Keith Postel.
Here. Okay. And we have the agenda for this evening. There are no additions or deletions. So is there an approval to approve the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
There's support?
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Barberina and supported by Commissioner Boyd to approve the agenda as submitted. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we have a motion needs to be made for any approval for the minutes of our October 5th, the study session minutes. Are there any additions or corrections to it?
Chairman?
Go ahead.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes for the study session on October 5th as submitted.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Barberina and supported by Commissioner Postel to approve the October 5th minutes as submitted. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the minutes of our October 19th meeting. Are there any additions or corrections? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes of the October 19th meeting as presented.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Barberina and supported by Commissioner Postel to approve the minutes of October 19th. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the approval of the November 16th meeting. Are there any additions or corrections? Is there a motion?
I'll abstain, so I wasn't here.
I move to approve the November 16th, 2022 meeting minutes.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Dorshevitz and supported by Commissioner Grieger to approve the November 16th minutes. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
And I'll
carries.
abstain since I was absent.
An abstention from Commissioner Barberina because she was not present at that meeting. Next is public comments. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak on any item that is not on this evening's agenda? Okay, hearing none, we will continue. Okay, we'll move on to new business, application 2458, the Taco Bell remodel. And Ms. Wolf, your report?
Thank you. All right, just so everyone knows, Justina, the representative from Taco Bell, is on the phone line today, and she can only hear you if your mic is on. So I do want to mention that if you're speaking, please do make sure your mic is turned on.
Okay.
All right, so this is PC number 2458, the Taco Bell remodel at 205 Ann Arbor Road. And this application was for tentative and final site plan approval. This is a 0.55 acre site on the south side of Ann Arbor Road next to Lilly. I'm sure you're all very familiar with it. It's only a few hundred feet away from Township Hall. And this is a 2,243 square foot building that has been here since the 1990s. This site is located in the ARC district, and please note that any signage will be under a separate application. So right now, this is only for site plan amendment. We reviewed this against the standards of the zoning ordinance as well as those for the ARC district specifically and offer the following comments. At this time, we are recommending that the applicant revise and resubmit the plan for the proposed remodeling to incorporate these changes. One, to provide a truck turning diagram for the new dumpster enclosure. So at present, there's no truck turning diagram in the plan packet, and we just need something that shows that a garbage truck of average size could sufficiently enter and exit the site safely. Two, this site was adopted in 1992 originally, and the 1992 site plan specified that the use of the site is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and as such, trash pickup should be limited between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. This site plan note must be carried over from the 1992 site plan onto the current site plan. There's nothing in their plan that suggests a deviation from this. We would just like to see it carried over. 3, the existing masonry screening wall to the south of the site should be power washed and repaired as needed, just as an update to the landscaping of the site. 4, there is no tree removal and replacement data provided in the landscaping plan. So if you look at the 1992 site plan, which is on the second to last page of your packet, you'll see that there is formerly a tree on the island in the center front of the site, which is on the far right side, that has died since the last site plan was established. And we would like to see information about the removal and replacement of those trees as specified on the original plan. 5th, a revised parking layout that accounts for the correct number of interior seats and the correct spacing of the parking must be provided. So if you look at the site plan that's on page L10, you'll notice that some of the parking spaces are not the same dimension as those across from them, and we would like to have the dimensions provided for both sides of the drive aisle to ensure they meet minimum standards. 6, no loading space is detailed. 1 loading space is required given the size of this development, and the Planning Commission can choose to waive this if the applicant states that it is not necessary for these standards, and the Planning Commission agrees to their satisfaction. And finally, an exterior facade was provided. However, the facade did not include the percentage of the facade that is to be covered by masonry materials. So we would like the applicant to provide that calculation, as well as color elevations to the satisfaction of the commission. The colors are specified on the facade sheet. We would just like to see them actually provided in colored form for better understanding of the site. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, and now we have the engineering report.
So Adam isn't here today, so I will find it and read it for him. 1 second. All right. Per the engineering report, the township engineer is recommending tentative and final site plan approval conditional on the resolution of all the comments they have specified therein. Final engineering approval is not recommended at this time and will of course occur after final site plan approval. So with regards to the engineering considerations of the site, very little is changing and the engineer is satisfied with the site plan presented.
Okay. And the applicant is here, and is it a man or a woman? I didn't catch.
Justina. So Justina, we just went through the staff reports, so now if you'd like to speak to the commission directly, they can all hear you.
Hello, thank you for allowing me to be in this meeting this evening. Is there any additional questions that anyone has?
Are you changing the number of seats inside the restaurant?
We do have a new furniture layout, so the seating is 42 for the interior.
So
I would have.
do you know, is that an increase or a decrease over what you currently have?
I would have to look that up. If you could give me a second, I'm sorry.
Well, just so we want to ensure that there's sufficient parking or too much parking or whatever that count is. So when you address the questions raised by our planner, that would be, I think, a valuable piece of information.
Okay.
And then the other question that I have, and I looked at the plans and I couldn't really figure out exactly what was going on parts of it. When you go through the drive-through and you're at the pickup window, and then you sort of have to make a left turn, that is an extremely tight corner. In fact, I won't even go into that Taco Bell drive-through any longer because I scraped the bottom of my car on the side of that wooden retainer wall. Is that going to be corrected?
Yes, they are widening that exiting drive-through lane to 12 foot, and they are also at the curve, the radius will be 18 foot. So that is one thing that is expanded in this plan.
And what is it currently? What are those dimensions currently? Do you have that information? If not, you can just provide that, again, when you address the other issues in the planner's report. I don't really need to have that information,
Okay.
but I'd like to have the comparison.
Okay, I will definitely add that. Sorry.
Could we get an introduction in how you were involved with the project?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Justina Essen. I'm with Arc Vision. We're an architectural firm outside of St. Louis, Missouri, and we do corporate remodels. And I am the project manager for the Taco Bell corporate remodels.
Okay.
Another item that should be provided to us are samples of the building material, particularly the colors.
Okay, so we are painting the existing brick building, and the colors are shown on the A4.0 sheet and A4.1 sheet.
Yeah, but we really need to see the samples because that gives us a
Okay,
better,
yeah.
and we like to actually see, if it's possible, to provide samples of the building materials. They're just little swatches of masonry or ephes, whatever you're planning on using.
Okay. So the brick will remain. We're just going to paint the existing brick, but we are providing an exterior wall surround around the addition walk-in cooler. That will be ephes, and we can provide a sample to you. We will also provide color elevations.
Other questions?
Would you mind characterizing just top-line changes over what's existing? What the renovation is including?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Certainly. We know having looked at the mechanicals, what it shows, but how do you characterize what you're trying to do as far as just your top-line sort of points on what's changing?
Like what is influencing the second drive-through lane and remodel?
Well, yeah, you're adding essentially a lane. We know you're adding a cooler, but what is the list of things you're really changing?
Okay. So the site upgrades, I actually made a narrative and sent it to this morning. For the second drive-through lane, it provides an expedited pickup experience for a Go mobile application when placing an order in advance. It's ready to be picked up within a specified time frame. So the existing drive-through lane will remain, but the second drive-through lane is designated just for the Go mobile. There's also 2 designated parking spaces designated for the Go mobile pickup if you would like to go inside and place an order. We're providing a new trash enclosure. We're upgrading the loading zone, sidewalk slope corrections, ADA parking is to comply with accessible standards, new concrete crosswalk striping for the accessible path of travel to and from the location, new landscaping to be provided at the disturbed areas, and the irrigation system would be modified as required. We will also be making the landscape upgrades as listed in the report. All existing utilities are going to remain. New building paint with the new corporate colors and new Taco Bell building signage and site signage. One of the reasons for the walk-in cooler, they are removing the interior walk-in cooler and adding that on the exterior side of the building as an addition so they can provide more storage and a production line, an extra production line for the second drive-through lane.
So maybe this was, maybe I didn't hear this, but the diagram appears to indicate that the drive-through lanes will basically displace most of the parking spots, right? So how many parking spots are there currently and how many would remain?
Well, the dimensions are inconsistent too, so I don't think that.
What
The
is it?
dimensions of the parking lot in the planner's report,
Yeah.
they look like they're different sizes, so until we get that question answered.
Yeah, I don't know if I didn't hear it or,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah,
I was trying to find.
that's why I was questioning about how many seats, because
Yeah.
if there's fewer seats, then it gives them a little more space to
Right,
maneuver.
because there's not a lot of parking there to begin with.
Right.
Especially when you factor in employees.
Pardon?
I'm counting 25 spaces are remaining.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I'm counting 25 spaces are remaining.
25?
And about how many,
Yes.
staff do you have on duty at any given time?
It said 5 in the,
Around 5 to 6.
Oh, yeah, I did remember that.
it says
Okay,
5 in the
yeah,
planner's report.
Okay, thanks.
On page 6.
Would that be
I
a
should
peak
read it more
deployment or an
closely.
average deployment?
It does say that, it's right there in large font.
Is that peak appointment at a peak time or an average?
On average.
I couldn't understand what you were saying when you were talking about the double drive-through. So could you just repeat that again?
So for the second drive-through lane, there is a new Go Mobile application that Taco Bell has where you can pre-order your food and you pull into this designated lane. There's no menu board to look at in this lane. It is strictly for picking up for Go Mobile. So you pull up and you say your name, and then your order should be ready when you get there.
That would be a prepaid arrangement?
No, not necessarily.
Nanny, is there a fire department report, or should there be for this?
The fire department did not offer any comments on this, so.
Okay.
So does that mean they're pleased with it, or?
Yep, so it's basically, it offers the same access as the existing Taco Bell does for fire truck turning radius. They would pull straight in and straight out.
Okay.
A fire truck definitely can't make it through the drive-through lane. But it's okay, they don't need
Just
to.
checking.
That's for
So-
sure.
And then also, with the revised planner's report, if you could maybe add something as far as how the parking plan compares to the parking standards that we're looking at changing in the future.
Sure, I'd be happy to include that.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, so I have an update on the seating. The seating was 58. It is now 42.
58 to 42.
So you'll do that calculation, Em, or does the applicant do that?
We'll do that calculation revision in our report,
Okay.
but the indication is with that reduction in seating, they're proposing to eliminate, I believe, 4 spaces, and that's more than enough to accommodate our current standards.
Yeah,
What about mention in the planner's report about a truck unloading zone? And I guess the question is, if there's not a place for a truck to park and unload, how are they doing it now and how would they propose doing it?
they come at night, don't they?
It can depend on the time.
Deliveries are at night.
I don't think so.
So, that is not necessarily required to have a loading zone. Not all businesses need to have one if their volume is not large enough. So I think, Justina, can you make a statement towards what types of loading and size of trucks typically service this establishment?
So next to the trash enclosure, we did provide a parking space, which also has a shorter wheel stop, so the dolly can access the truck easier. And then there's a new sidewalk that is leading to the service door.
For the commission, this is number 20A on sheet C3.
Do you know what page in the packet that is?
I do not know what page in the digital packet that is, but it is the 6th page of the site plan, I believe. Okay, right there.
3.0?
That one. So over to the left, go up a little bit, and see the parking space immediately adjacent to the left of the enclosure. So there's the double door dumpster enclosure, and then right to the left, there's a parking space with extra striping. I believe that's the one she's referring to as the loading accessible space.
Correct.
So just to the left, Bob.
I didn't hear you.
Yep, right there, 20A. You had your mouse right over it.
Oh, right here.
Yep, that's the one.
Oh, I see.
So do the trucks come every day or just as the supplies are needed? How big is the truck?
I actually don't have that information. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It looks like on the mechanical that it's roughly 20 feet deep. That's a pretty shallow truck.
I can look into that information and provide it in the comments when we resubmit.
That would be the size of an average car, or the depth of an average car.
Yes.
Other questions or comments, concerns?
I have a couple. First of all, I'd like to make sure that the applicant pays particular attention to item number 3 on page 4 of the planner's report regarding the trees. And also item number 8 on page 5 regarding the landscaping and the removal of the rock mulch and replacement with proper landscaping materials. And thanks to you, Nanny, and the department for calling those out. The other thing I have as a question, as much for the board as the applicant. When I was looking at this site today, I realized that there's, along most of the Ann Arbor Road corridor, we have the brick columns that are about 3 or 4 feet tall, and the chain, or the wrought iron panels that go in between. There's none of that on this site. And I don't know why, and I'm wondering, should that be added to the landscaping plan? Or is there some exemption for this site?
That is not required for this site as a part of an amendment because it was established prior to that standard. So although it is in the Ann Arbor Corridor District, it's non-conforming, so we can't force them to add the fencing at this time. If they were to redevelop the entire site, they would add the fencing at that point. But really, the scope today is just replacing the landscaping to meet current code standards. The vegetative landscaping.
Mr. Chairman, would it be appropriate for us to ask that the applicant consider putting in those features?
Well, let me ask this question first. So Nami, if it wasn't for that, they were redeveloping the whole thing, would we require that fencing, that decorative fencing there? Or is there like a master plan of where that fencing's going to be along the Ann Arbor Road corridor?
There is not a plan for where it is along the entire corridor. That's just our prescriptive fencing when someone wants to add fencing on the Ann Arbor corridor. I can check, but I don't believe it's actually required.
Yeah, if you could check, and then also if it could be a request for them to at least consider it if it's not required.
Yep, I can do that.
So Justine, so we'll do some research at our end, but you can ask your team there if they would be willing to consider this decorative fencing and the brick pylons or pillars, whatever you want to call them, in front of the site. If they would consider that, we can have a discussion about that the next time you appear before us.
Okay, where is this example provided?
I'll provide you with one, Justina.
Okay, thank you.
Bob, do you think you could find possibly an example?
It's actually just to the west of the existing site.
The car dealer?
Which business?
Oh, excuse me. The office building?
Yeah, I actually don't know what it was. I was just looking at it in Google tonight, but it's actually there. As a matter of fact, you can actually see on the developer's site plan tonight, you can see they call out the column at the very western, or very eastern edge of the property next door.
I'm not sure
Right
what
there,
you're
isn't it?
asking me to
Oh,
find.
see
how you can,
the brick pillar?
Yeah, can you zoom?
Oh,
There,
here?
yep.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
See if it's on the other side too, Bob, of that entrance?
sorry, I can't
Can
hear
you see
you.
if it's on the other side of that entrance?
Here?
Oh, yeah, I see it. Right.
Same, so you're suggesting what, Tim, that they do a similar?
Yeah, that we just asked them to consider, if we can't require it, we could at least ask that they consider adding to it.
Yeah,
So if someone wants to put fencing in, it has to look like that, correct? But they're not required to put any fencing in at all.
Apparently.
Is that
That's what we mean.
is that the correct understanding of the,
because they're grandfathered in.
okay,
This side
That
is.
particular site.
got it.
If it was to change hands, if it was to be sold, does that mean at that point it would reset, or is that grandfathered in perpetuity?
Nope, change of ownership does not affect nonconformities. The only thing that affects nonconformities is the scale of the redevelopment. So if they were to, demolish the whole site and start rebuilding, then all new current standards would apply.
Are do you know if the landscape beds, are they irrigated?
Some of the landscape beds on the site are rock. I do not know about the other ones that are currently mulch and vegetation. Justina, do you happen to know if there's irrigation on the site?
I am unsure about that, but the GC is required to hire a landscape architect for those needs.
it's all rock. Well, wait a minute.
Grass, it looks like there's some grass around the perimeter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
If there is an existing irrigation system, it will be modified to conform with the new landscaping.
Well, I'm happy to hear you're widening that exit lane of the drive-through because it's a menace for catching tires and even on a mid-sized car.
Looks pretty narrow.
I don't know how a large car like a Suburban or could maneuver that. So tight.
So the area you're looking at, we have it widened at the curve, but then we do have it tapered back to where that monument sign is. We were trying not to relocate that monument sign.
Right.
Do you feel that area is
I don't know,
very small?
my opinion is you're probably okay if you're at that point, but the curve, from the drive-through window to that point that was just shown, it's difficult. It's poorly planned.
Yeah.
Are you saying the current radius or the proposed 18-foot radius?
No, the current, the way it is right now.
Okay, got
I'd
it.
like to see, you know, as I indicated earlier, I'd like to see the turning radiuses as they are now versus what they plan to be. And obviously, they're not moving the building or anything, otherwise, I think it'd be a hard problem to resolve. But we'll see.
Oh, where did I go?
Any other comments or concerns, questions? So, Nami, so you're looking for a tentative site plan approval for this evening? Certainly, I don't think we're ready for final.
We were actually just recommending revisions and resubmission, and then at a following meeting, doing tentative and final at the same time. But if you would like to do tentative tonight, it's up to you whether or not that's appropriate.
But up to the commission where they want to go with that.
I agree with the planner that, that we just hold off until a lot of these issues are taken care of.
Do you want to make that motion and we'll see what happens?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we postpone, is that okay? PC application number 2458, the Taco Bell remodel, to allow the applicant to revise and resubmit and address the items in the McKenna report, and in addition to that, to consider the addition of the ARC streetscape.
How long do you think you'll need to take to prepare a revised submission?
It's hard to say with the holidays, but a couple of weeks.
Well, is 90 days enough time or 90 days or 6 months? You can come in sooner than that if you're ready.
For the revision?
I'm not sure, I'll just,
For the revision on the plan?
I cannot add to my motion for up to 6 months.
Okay. So I don't know if you heard that, it's up to 6 months, but you can come in sooner.
Okay,
If it
definitely
goes-
sooner.
Yeah, okay. Is there a motion? A support?
Support?
Okay, moved by Commissioner Barberina and supported by Commissioner Postel to,
This boy.
Boyd?
Boyd, was it Boyd? Oh, okay. To postpone application 2458 for up to 6 months to submit a revised plan. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Good luck to you.
I
Thanks,
do actually
Justine.
have one more question.
Okay.
For the loading zone, that would be determined on the size of the truck, I think you were saying earlier.
Yes, Justina, I can help work with you to figure that out for the meeting.
Okay, that's great, thank you. I will look into that information also. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. See if I can get off the light.
It's been crazy like this the last few days. It's been freezing in here.
What's freezing in here at night in the winter?
I know, but throughout all the offices, it was, yesterday morning we came in and it was like 50 degrees inside the offices.
Did the treasurer pay the bill?
Apparently not, that guy's an idiot. Guy can't pay a simple heating bill. Oh, okay. Okay.
CBA agenda
was in the iPad.
Yes, it's because she wanted you to see all the variances that they're going to need.
Okay.
That's
Just
why
wanted
she
to
put
make
that,
sure.
yeah.
I thought that was it.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to the Plymouth Exchange, application 2459, and we're ready for the planner's report.
Thank you, Commission. Firstly, I would like to introduce you to Andrew Littman. Andrew Littman is a senior planner at our firm McKenna. As some of you know, Laura is in Florida this week, and she did indeed supervise the revision, but Andrew was the brute writer for most of the content. So Andrew's going to be here today to speak to this.
Okay.
After that, I will read the Spalding to Decker summary, and I do want to note that our review letter from McKenna does not specify the correct setback distance from Napier Road. So before you, or mailed to you yesterday, you should have received the tentative agenda for the Zoning Board of Appeals. This includes the variances being requested for this site, and I'd like to draw your attention to variance number 1651. And that one specifies the correct side yard setback and variance request for the Napier Road frontage. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Andrew.
This flash drive's not reading, it's not coming up.
Okay. Well, pass it back my way, Bob.
Pardon?
I'll try to fix it. While Andrew talks.
Okay.
USB-C.
Well, thank you for that introduction. The applicant, Jones Development, is proposing to construct 3 spec warehouses totaling 987,200 square feet on a 186-acre site. This site, which is located on the east side of Napier Road and directly south of 5 Mile Road, is known as Lot 10 of the Michigan International Technology Center. This site's zoned industrial, where warehousing is a principal permitted use, and it has a future land use designation of light industrial. Thus, the project's consistent with the zoning map and the master plan. The applicant's proposing to develop 62.9 acres of this site, and the remainder is planned to be preserved as wetland area, as the site contains 4 unregulated wetlands and 1 large regulated wetland. The project's in compliance with most of the dimensional requirements for the industrial district. However, all 3 proposed buildings exceed the maximum allowable height, and as Nani just pointed out, there is not an adequate side yard setback from Napier Road to the truck parking lot. So obtaining these variances should be a condition of approval. To obtain approval, the site design is required to the extent feasible to conserve natural site features, including but not limited to wetlands, topography, and wooded areas. Encroachments into any of the 4 unregulated wetlands or the 1 large regulated wetland on the site is prohibited. And as proposed, the project complies. However, a major issue is that the submitted landscape plan fails to indicate the extent to which the site's many existing trees will be conserved. The landscape plan is required to show the number of existing trees that will be removed, and to break that down by heritage trees and regulated trees. However, the applicant's landscape plan just states these figures are TBD, to be determined. So the applicant must submit a revised landscape plan which specifies the total number of existing trees that are planned to be removed, broken down by heritage trees and regulated trees, and also provide details for the replacement trees. In terms of vehicular access and circulation, for all buildings, trash compactors or dumpsters are to be located within recessed truck areas within the buildings. So the applicant should provide a truck turning diagram and demonstrate the ability for refuse trucks to service both the dumpsters and the loading bays. In terms of pedestrian access and circulation, no sidewalk along the public street frontage of 5 Mile Road is proposed. And this sidewalk must be provided with a minimum of 5-foot width. And in lieu of construction of a sidewalk, payment to the township for approximately 2,100 feet will be required. When provided, the sidewalk must include a safe connection to the interior sidewalks. Interior sidewalks are provided from the front parking lot to the building entrances for each respective building. Ramps must be identified for all interior sidewalk entry points, and the sidewalk width must be increased from 5.5 feet to 6 feet in width to comply with section 28.16. Further, the sidewalk provided in front of the handicap spaces for Building 1 should be extended to serve all parking spaces on the north end. One other major issue is parking. The applicant's plan features 1,287 total parking spaces, 16 of which are barrier-free ADA spaces. 528 of these are proposed to be put in immediately, and the other 759 spaces to be put in the future. The township's zoning ordinance requires many more spaces, assuming 1 parking space per 400 square feet of usable floor area. A strict reading of the ordinance would require 1,967 spaces, including 29 barrier-free ADA spaces. So therefore, the deficiency is 680 total parking spaces, which equates to a proposed 34.5% reduction from the existing minimum parking required. However, as we all know, when an applicant demonstrates to the satisfaction of the Planning Commission that the minimum number of required parking spaces exceeds the amount necessary for the proposed use, the Commission may approve construction of a lesser number of spaces. The applicant notes historical data for the proposed use, citing 1 parking space per 1,500 square feet of gross floor area, yielding 658 necessary parking spaces. Based on the latest parking generation data from the Institute of Transportation Engineers, ITE, we also find that the township's parking standards are much higher than necessary for the current operating needs of a logistics warehouse. Under current ITE standards, only 395 employee spaces are warranted for a warehouse of the proposed use, of the proposed size. Moreover, some of the employee parking stalls are proposed at 18 feet in depth, which does not meet the minimum depth requirement of 20 feet as specified in 24.811 of the zoning ordinance. So these dimensions must be revised. Additionally, the dimensions for the handicap spaces must be provided. So finally, I had some comments on the exterior lighting. I guess I just learned that there's been a revised photometric plan, but in the initial plan, the initial photometric plan showed a total of 75 LED lights, and although the maximum average illumination at 3.12 foot candles is in compliance, the maximum illumination at 22.5 foot candles and maximum illumination at the setback line of 10.2 foot candles far exceeds what is allowed under section 28.8. So therefore, our recommendation is that the Planning Commission grant tentative and final site plan approval for the proposed industrial development, conditional on the applicant providing the following to be reviewed and approved by the administrative committee. 1, signature and seal on the final site plan, revised to comply with the notes included in our report. 2, signature and seal on the final photometric plan, revised to comply with the maximum allowable illumination levels under section 28.81. 3, a truck turning diagram showing the ability for trucks to service the dumpsters and the loading bays. And 4, a revised landscape plan that provides required details related to tree removal and replacement, including the number, type, and size of trees. And approval should also be conditional on the applicant obtaining the necessary variances from the ZBA and providing a 5-foot sidewalk along 5 Mile Road or a payment in lieu made to the township. And approval should be contingent on the Planning Commission finding that the proposed building facade is satisfactory in design and massing, and that the proposed parking is sufficient for the site demand. Thank you.
And the applicant is here. If you want to step up and anything you have to say or?
I would like to quickly mention.
Sure.
Just on behalf of engineering, as they couldn't make it tonight, the township engineer is also recommending tentative and final site plan approval.
Okay, and nothing from the fire department?
Nope, nothing from the fire department on this one either.
So if they never have it, is this sort of a change? If they have no objection, we won't get a note from them?
I believe so. It will be included in the final file, but there was
Okay.
none provided for the meeting, so.
Okay. All right. Floor is yours.
Good evening. First off, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I gave a similar presentation last night to the Board of Trustees, so Bob, some of this will be redundant. So let me first give you an introduction. My name is Cameron Cooper, Jones Development Company, industrial development firm based in Kansas City. However, we really truly do industrial projects coast to coast. We've completed over 200 projects, 38 states, currently active in about 14. So we have a pretty diverse footprint. So background on this project, we first identified this site about a year and a half ago. When we went under contract, we knew that there were some pretty significant wetlands that we had to overcome. So our first step was we hired a wetlands consultant, and for about a year, we sat side by side with Eagle, did analysis, reports, surveys. Fast forward to this fall, we received a favorable recommendation, determination from Eagle, and essentially there was, I don't know if we have the site plan pulled up, but there was a pretty significant wetland right in the middle of building 1. And through the process, through our analysis, Eagle determined that non-jurisdictional. So with that determination, we were able to move forward with the project. So right in the middle of building 1. So roughly 190 acres, 90 of it is developable. So this is the site plan that we came up with to do everything we could to stay out of the wetlands. So as soon as we got the determination from Eagle, we've been full steam ahead. We've spent money on due diligence, obviously wetlands, geotech, survey. We've also done a full detailed design. We released our civil engineer, our architect, full speed ahead. As I said, that determination came a few months ago. So we've been doing everything we can to get before you for Planning Commission site plan approval. Our due diligence ends first quarter of 23. So we're a little bit under the gun trying to make sure that everybody agrees with what we proposed here with Plymouth Township. Obviously, we submitted these drawings maybe 4 weeks ago. We received comments back late last week. And so our design team obviously has reports doing everything they can, working diligently to make sure that we address all of the concerns that were brought to our attention last week.
I didn't see any elevations. Were they included anywhere, or did I just miss them?
They're in, I think they're in.
Yeah, they're toward the back, I think.
Yes.
And so we came in with Laura and her team. We've been here a handful of times. We want to make sure that everybody agreed with, obviously we're spending real money moving forward with this project. We want to make sure that there weren't any major issues or concerns with the Planning Commission. Sat down with Laura and her team, submitted elevations that they wanted a few architectural details to be added. We added those. about a month ago, and those were included in our resource.
The elevations are included in your packet for buildings 1 and 2, but not for building 3.
Toward the end of this,
Yes.
I went through every page, and
I saw them somewhere.
do you know what the page? is?
Bob, could you pull those up on the digital?
C62 or?
Can't hear you, sorry.
Oh, can you pull them up on the digital one?
On the site plan? That's what I was just in, but what page?
And
Oh, there you are. Is that it? No.
There you go.
there you go.
It- Where is it?
In full transparency, this is more storefront architectural details than we typically do. So obviously, there were some concerns addressed by the planning commission, by Laura and her team. So we wanted to make sure that we addressed those concerns, so we spruced it up a bit more than typical.
Are you building this with a client in mind?
You know, that's a great question. I was asked the same question last night. We are pursuing a few build-to-suit opportunities, but our plan is to start as a spec building and actively lease that through construction. In the development world, with interest rates and construction financing and capital markets world, it's a bit bumpy right now, but in a best-case scenario, we would start with both building 1 and building 2. That's why we've paid the design cost to move forward with design for both. And the plan is we've implemented this development plan in a handful of places, most recently in Indianapolis. The thought is to build a bigger building and a smaller building, cast as wide a net as possible. If there's a smaller user at 30,000 square feet, we could demise or split up the smaller building to meet that demand. And then we'd also have a larger building for the full building as well.
And ultimately, you may end up splitting the larger building too if need be, right?
We are providing means for that. We're going through our detailed design, mechanical, electrical, plumbing to make sure that our utilities are in place to support that. That's not a best case scenario, but we have plans to be able to meet those demands.
Do you have a page number? What is it?
Yeah, we don't have them.
So it's not in the print copy?
No, it's not in the print copy, so it was only on the electronic copy?
My apologies, I assume that is true. The print copy received yesterday, correct?
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
My apologies.
Where's the, hard for me to tell from that,
Yeah.
but where is the, like, the front of the building? You know, the side that's gonna face 5 Mile?
Yeah, so can you go back to building 1? Yeah, so you can see is this the north side? Yes. So you can see the storefronts over on the north side,
Yeah.
the northwest corner, northeast corner, and that'll wrap around the corner as well. So in our, typically, tenant improvement office space is in either corner, either quadrant, and then you have cross-dock, manufacturing, light manufacturing, loading, distribution throughout the warehouse itself.
Okay, so I had a phone conversation with Laura back a few weeks ago.
Yes.
And she sent me some renderings that you had submitted.
Yep.
And wanted my opinion as to what I thought about it. And did you make any changes? Did she get back to you? Did you make any changes?
Yes, we did. We had a phone call, walked through those changes, resubmitted. And this, you can see the second story, the architectural, if you zoom in, the architectural detail on the front, and we spruced it up quite a bit, actually. And we can do it before and after. But yes, we took that feedback from Laura, and we revised the elevations.
Okay, so what I had indicated to her was, frankly, I thought the building was originally submitted, looked a little flat. It made the building, it's a massive building, which is okay, but we're trying to not make it look so massive. So I asked her to look at, and she pulled it up while we were on the phone, another warehouse that's going up about a mile from you on Ridge Road. And they sort of did, it's hard for me to describe, it's sort of a layering. The commission looked at it, and there's kind of put towers, if you will, at the corners to kind of break up the mass and
Sure.
the big horizontal. Yeah, I'm not sure if I see that in these renderings. It's
Yeah,
sort of-
there are bump outs, so
Okay.
that's, I agree, if flat building, there are some architectural
Right.
dimension. Let me get a 3D rendering,
Yeah,
so
that
you
would
can see
help.
that. It's really hard to see in a 2D drawing, but yes,
Right.
that was definitely, feedback was received, and we made those
Oh,
changes.
good. And so can you, since you have that up, can you just go through the building material? I understand that it's sort of the precast concrete, if that's the right term, that was used at another building.
That's exactly right.
For the benefit of the commission with the Wabasco building. So similar, I believe,
Yeah,
to that.
it will be concrete walls, either tilt up or precast. That's industry standards. You see that across the market for utility buildings. Concrete, but I agree, in storefronts, we try to do everything we can, glass and glazing, architectural details, to essentially break up the concrete building.
And what color scheme are you going with?
We went with feedback from Laura, which is a little bit different than what we typically do, but the feedback, we revised to whatever Laura wanted.
Dennis, there are paint swatches in the sample box you
Oh,
have.
that's right, okay.
He has the
Hang
sample
on.
box. Give him just a
I'll-
second.
I didn't even look at them, but I'll pass them out.
And we're open, if you guys have different paint scheme, we're certainly open to suggestions.
So this is your glass. Perhaps you can come in the middle and just hold it for us to
Yeah.
explain where these samples will be. Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so here are our color schemes here, and you'll have to forgive me, I'm not an architect, I'm a developer. I know that this is if you zoom into the storefront. So at the bottom level, glass and glazing, our plan is to have office at the bottom, so we want to provide natural sunlight that comes in. The windows above will be this, so kind of break up some of that space. So there will be also, this is the storefront frames. So you can see kind of to break up the dimension in between the lower windows and that material is this. And then here are the different colors that Laura and her team suggested. So again, this is different than our standard. We like to add a little more color pop, but this is what we were recommended to do.
Would any of this, the structure be two-story, or is it just facade?
No, so the way that,
You want to see it?
I feel like I'm right in your guys' face. You can slide back over here.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so great question, and we're obviously in for a variance on this. So building one, a building of this size, the market standard is 40-foot clear height inside the first column.
I get that.
So that's kind of an industry standard. It's what they do for the racking, for light manufacturing. That's for building 670,000 square foot cross-dock building. 40-foot clear is it's what's expected. And if you don't provide that, essentially you're just kind of getting struck off the RFP list.
Right. So there is no true second story, it's just...
Nope, no second story, which is the reason why we don't typically provide the second story architectural detail. But obviously, if this is something that's being recommended, then we want to make sure that we provide that.
Yeah, if you could do a rendering, so.
Yes.
So you're looking for tentative and final tonight?
Yeah, so obviously, we just got comments back. We resubmitted a photometric plan. Electrical engineer turned that around in 48 hours. So our hope is that this is kind of the goalpost. We understand exactly what items we need to go and resubmit, get signed off to your approval, knowing that if we do that, then we'll get planning commission approval. We're probably 3 months away from closing on the dirt. So we have got some pretty big financial decisions to make. If this is obviously going through planning commission, getting tentative approval, conditional upon us meeting this is a big step moving forward. And so would respectfully request that that we get tentative approval conditional upon, you guys have to see what we resubmit. So again, I have my design team working as hard as possible to address these issues.
So bottom line, if I understand you correctly, tentative tonight, and then you'll come back for final, or you want both tonight?
No, I don't know how this process normally works. I know that our team will address, we'll fly out here, we'll sit down with your team to make sure everything's satisfied. We just received these, and I want to make sure that our team resubmits, but also knowing that you have to resubmit, and then it takes a month to get on, we're just kind of getting to the end of the road to make a decision.
Well, I don't think you can be on next month's,
I think that deadline's passed.
yeah, the deadline is passed, so February is still within whatever you need to do at your end to get the project moving?
It's really close. So our extension gets us through the end of January, and we'll have to close on the dirt and call it late February or early March.
And I should mention, our department is recommending tentative and final tonight.
Tonight, okay.
And that's because this is a by right permitted use. It's not a special land use. It has no discretionary component to it. So really, we're recommending approval on the condition that these outstanding items be resolved and the variances be obtained.
And to add a little bit of clarity and color to that, so we've been working directly with MITC through this, Gary Roberts and his group.
Oh, yeah.
We've been here 5 or 6 times going through, met with Laura's group, going through planning commission. I want to make sure that any concerns that you guys have are addressed. So we will go through that process, we'll resubmit. But again, I've been working on this project for 1.5 years, and unfortunately, the city of Detroit is telling me we're about out of time. So
They're doing what?
so we have 3 extensions. Exercise one of them in December, of January, and then February, and then we'll have to close on the dirt.
So when, I'm not sure I understood you, so when do you expect to complete the transaction with?
Yeah, it'll be probably sometime in March.
March.
From my perspective, me alone, not speaking for the others, I have no concerns. The only thing I would like to see is the 3D rendering. It's hard for me to picture this, you know. I'm happy to hear that, you know, you followed up with Laura on the suggestion.
And we have a rendering that I don't know if it went to the MITC board, but let me find that and I'll send it to the group. And if it's, that way you can see what's going on. I agree,
Right.
2D drawings are extremely difficult
Right.
to see, architectural features.
Yeah. Yeah, if you could do that, I don't know, does anyone else have concerns about this?
Yeah, I have one minor question. Along Napier Road, the western border, there's quite a bit of natural growth along there. Are you proposing to clear cut that completely, or will some of that natural growth stay right by the road?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that's part of our variance request. So if you pull up I don't know if you have a site plan. So we are really confined east-west. We tried to do everything we could to stay out of the wetlands. So there are kind of market standards for building depth, how wide a building is, and then we have the north-south road. And so we're actually requesting a variance in the far northwest corner because we encroach too much on Napier Road.
Right.
So there will be mass grading, and we'll strip topsoil and clean some of the vegetation there. But there is a variance that we'll need in order to provide the trailer parking, the entries, and that northwest corner.
That brings up my other point to the board. With the documents that were distributed today, we've got a copy of the ZBA agenda for January, and the applicant is asking for a number of variances. One of them is a variance in height, which I don't believe will be an issue. The second variance is on parking spaces. And I think we've discussed this in here, why they're asking that. I can't tell you how the ZBA will react, but that seems to me to be fairly straightforward. The third variance is that along 5 Mile Road, normally there's a 50-foot required setback for the parking to begin. They're asking for a variance of 40 feet so that the parking would start 10 feet back. That would only take place if they decide later on they need to add additional parking.
Yeah, that's a great point. If Bob, if you want to remind, can you pull up that site plan? So, as you can see, not only are we constrained east-west, but also north-south. So we've essentially made these buildings as big as we can without getting into the wetland actually curls up. So that building one, north-south, is as big as it can be. And if you zone into the very front, the auto parking.
Top left.
Yeah. So we are providing 171 auto stalls, which is, it's okay for a shell building, a spec shell building, but we want to provide an opportunity, if there were a tenant that were to come and they need more auto parking, I'd like to request that we could come before you with the tenant in hand and encroach upon that setback at 5 Mile to provide additional auto parking to meet whatever that tenant demand. I don't want to request that today because the feedback we received from Laura and her group is they do not want unused parking. They don't want empty parking lots. So that's part of the reason why we only provided 171 here today. But I do want to provide the opportunity to come back before you with the tenant and provide additional parking to meet their demand. Because I think we are a little bit light on future build-out auto parking.
What's
And then
the
the-
route? Oh, sorry.
And then the last variance also is what the gentleman just referred to along Napier Road. At the narrowest point, they're asking for a 60-foot setback, whereas normally it would be 20 feet. So I just want to make everybody aware that this will go in front of the ZBA in early January, and we'll see what the approvals are. Will you have someone available for that meeting? Because I think it'd be.
I will be here.
Very good. Okay.
And I'll have, unfortunately, Scott Wilson at Kimley Horn is under the weather, so he was not here, and he'll be able to speak to a lot of the civil technical details.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, thanks for,
What's
you
the
know,
route
summarizing
for
that.
truck traffic to the highway?
Yeah, that's a good question. So they will come into our facility through the north-south corridor, go through 5 Mile, and then back to the interstate.
Back road to 5?
Not back, you mean, they're going to take, back up?
Yeah, so in our development, there was a north-south road that will be private. So all traffic will facilitate through that, with the exception of building 1 that will go out on 5 Mile, and then all traffic will go east. So
Yeah,
nothing.
because you can't really get to Godfredson from
No,
there, not
you
easily.
can't.
What is the plan for 5 Mile Road in the, to be improved in this area? Is there a plan, and will it be in place by the time these gentlemen would be building?
Another good question. That's been my biggest concern. So we've had a lot of discussions with the MITC and Plymouth Township. So obviously, phase 1 got to, I believe it's Beck. So Beck, and then there are plans, no, actually Ridge. So there are plans to go phase 2 along 5 Mile Road. So there may be a little bit of crossover as we're doing construction. Eventually 5 Mile will be improved.
But we don't want that truck traffic on Ridge Road, south of M14. That's what you're saying?
No, sorry. So it's improved 5 miles, improved the Ridge, correct?
He's talking about the between the two.
Yes. No, I'm talking about the improvements along 5 Mile Road.
Sure.
Yeah, so it basically stopped at Ridge, and now there's a phase 2, my understanding, currently under design, and that will be done in the next couple of years.
You know, the other concern I would have is there's a tremendous amount of truck traffic, going out to 5, is the railroad track. Because when the train goes by, that really jams up that area. I hate to mention it, but it really needs a viaduct. Pardon?
What we need is an underpass.
That's right.
Movement.
Yeah.
I've never seen a train there.
You haven't?
I've never seen a train there.
Really?
Yeah.
At where? Every day?
That-
Back in,
Oh, not that one.
well, that's the same track.
Is that the same
Yeah,
track?
it's the same
Yeah.
track.
Oh,
Yeah,
maybe. I don't know. How many trains go by there a day?
More than one.
whenever I'm going that way,
Whenever
there's a train.
they know that you're going.
Anytime
It's
anytime
not
Beck
so
Road
much-
is backed up,
it's
Ridge
not-
in 5 Mile will be backed up within a couple minutes.
Yeah. It's not so much how many trains, it's how long that train
How long they
is.
are
And
and
if
what
they
time of
stop.
day they
Yeah.
come through.
Yeah.
Okay, it's the same track, okay.
I should have mentioned this before, but as part of this development, we're also extending a 12-inch water main along 5 Mile, about a mile to our site with sanitary sewer.
Yeah, I heard, someone told me some time ago that the particular site that we're talking about tonight would be a difficult one to develop because the utilities are hard to get over to that area. Have you found that to be the case, or?
They're not difficult, they're just expensive.
Well, for some people, that's difficult.
So again, we are extremely bullish on the site, really like the site. It's been challenging. Not often do I spend a year and a half working on one site in due diligence, but we really like the opportunity here. And with the partnership of MITC, we've come up with some unique strategies to get utilities here. 12-inch water main, sanitary sewer, electric will be across the street. If you don't have utilities, it's just farm field. So we're trying to do everything we can to make this a true industrial development.
As well as gas line,
Gas line, correct.
right? I have a question. When you're talking about a tilt-up wall of 43 feet high, that would take you to the footprint. Where do you, how do you build out offices within?
I'm sorry, say that
Well, you've
again.
got a box that's 43 feet high.
Oh, we'll have drop ceilings.
You have what?
Drop ceilings, so the ceiling will come, we won't have 40-foot clear inside the office. So we'll
Right.
have drop ceilings with overhead HVAC
Right,
to make it a functional office.
gotcha.
And then that will be separated from the actual warehouse with a full demising wall that goes to the deck. So it'll be totally enclosed office.
Did you envision that to be the same tenant, or would this be two separate different tenants? Or?
Best case, it would be the same tenant. More than likely, it probably won't be. Probably be multiple tenants. But again, we're actively pursuing a few opportunities. But we've done work with, I mentioned this last night, FedEx, Amazon, DHL. I think this market's a bit unique as compared to other ones. We think there's light manufacturing opportunities here that aren't elsewhere. So we've tasked our broker to get creative with this space.
Who is your broker?
We are working with Cushman here.
Okay, any other concerns that the commission would have about the development in general, or granting both tentative and final? And you'll be you'll be forwarding us a copy of the
Yes.
3D renderings, and then I would encourage, once we get those to commissioners, if they have issues with that, to let the planning department know. Might be good to copy, well, we shouldn't copy each other, just let the planning department know.
Any other questions for me?
I have a
Anything
question.
else?
Yeah.
Is Brayburn still in business, or wasn't there recently a
I'm sorry, say.
Brayburn golf course across the street? Is that,
That's a good question. I drove in their parking lot 2 weeks ago. I didn't see anybody playing golf. Obviously, it was a little chilly, but I couldn't tell.
I kind of recall reading a story that it might be on its way out. I'm not certain if that's true or not.
I'm not sure.
Anything else? Are we ready for a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we grant tentative and final site plan approval for the proposed industrial development PC application 2459, conditional on the applicant providing the following, and that they're reviewed and approved by the administrative committee. 1, signature and seal on the final site plan revised to comply with the notes included in the planner's report. 2, signature and seal on the final photometric plan revised to comply with the maximum allowable illumination levels under section 28.81. 3, a truck turning diagram showing the ability for trucks to service the dumpsters and loading bays. 4, a revised landscape plan that provides required details related to tree removal and placement, including number, type, and size of trees. And conditional on the applicant, 1, obtaining the necessary variances from the Zoning Board of Appeals. 2, providing a 5-foot sidewalk along 5 Mile Road or a payment in lieu made to the township. 3, the items in the engineering report. And contingent that the planning commission finds the proposed building facade to be satisfactory. The applicant has said that he will forward 3D renderings, and this will also be approved by the administrative committee, and so that the proposed parking is sufficient for the site demand.
So the final facade would be subject to the approval of the administrative service?
Yes, so the final
Okay.
rendering and the facade would be the administrative committee.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Barberina, and supported by Commissioner Pastel to grant tentative and final site plan approval subject to said conditions to application 2459. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Well, congratulations. Welcome to the community. We always appreciate, we appreciate your investment and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to application 2411. We have a memo here of Hillside. Did you have any comment to make on this?
Sure, I'll just cover it very quickly for the purpose of anyone watching tonight. The Hillside Overlook Apartments, also known as the Courthouse Grill Apartments, for those of you who remember it from a year ago, are requesting a planned unit development extension request. So on December 14th of last year, exactly 1 year ago, the Board of Trustees granted approval for the PUD option for this site. This site has been delayed for a variety of reasons that are outside of the applicant's control, and that includes brownfield development, permitting from Eagle, and everything else. And as of this week, the applicant is still working on the state to acquire the necessary funding. They anticipate another 3 months is needed, so the applicant is requesting the 1-year extension to their site development plan to the township. So we offer a maximum of a 1-year extension for PUD options and PUD site development plans, and that is before you tonight. This would extend the PUD site development plan to December 14th, 2023. And the applicant anticipates that this would be more than enough time to achieve the necessary final components to submit for final engineering and building review.
Okay. Any questions?
I have a question. It states the address is on Plymouth Road. Isn't that Lily Road?
No, the Courthouse Grill is on Plymouth Road. It has no intersecting street.
Okay.
It's right by Heinz, where the Plymouth Road goes on a bridge over Heinz Drive.
Right,
It's right
Next to
that.
next to the courthouse.
right.
Near the cemetery and Massey Field.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions? Is there a motion?
Motion to extend the PC 2411, the Hillside Overlook Apartments for the PUD option until December 14th, 2023.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Pastel and supported by Commissioner Boyd, granting an extension of 1 year to 2411. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have no unfinished business. We do have a communication and a special resolution, and I think Keith has an announcement to make.
This will be my last meeting on there. I was surprised even to find out that it's been 20 years. And so I've enjoyed working with all of you, and while we agree on vast majority of items, when we didn't agree, I respected everybody's opinions, and their occasion they changed my opinion. So I look forward to that. I can't justify continuing on when I'm going to be away for 4 months. I can't do it justice. It's whizzing back into town for 1 day. It doesn't really accomplish what it should. So it's time to retire.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate your 20 years of
years.
service.
Thank you so much for your service.
Dedication, and you certainly have contributed tremendously to the commission.
And for making it work through all those winters that you were flying back here with your suntan.
So with that, I think Commissioner Barberina has a resolution to read.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a resolution of appreciation. Whereas Keith Postel has served on the Plymouth Township Planning Commission for the past 17 years, having been appointed on July 12th of 2002. And whereas Keith Postel's dedication, ability, and talent have been invaluable to the execution of the duties charged to the Charter Township of Plymouth Planning Commission. And whereas Keith Postel's professionalism, dedication, talents, and personal commitment to seek planning excellence, best practices, and advocacy of sound planning principles have contributed immeasurably to the continued progress and orderly development of the Plymouth community, and have been invaluable to the execution of the duties charged to the Charter Township of Plymouth Planning Commission and to the citizens of Plymouth Township. And whereas the success of the democratic form of government depends upon the voluntary leadership and contribution of time and talent on the part of its citizens, now therefore be it resolved that the Plymouth Planning Commission of the Charter Township of Plymouth herewith expresses recognition and appreciation for the service and support rendered by Keith Postel to the Planning Commission and the peoples of Plymouth Township, and extends best wishes to him for the future.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt that resolution?
So moved.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Barberina and supported by Commissioner Boyd to adopt the special resolution to Keith Postel. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. And I have the resolution here. We'll pass it around so we can all sign it. And then we have the monthly planning report. So is there any questions or comments about the monthly report?
Yeah, I had one on the page 2. At the top is the BCP Industries. This is the warehouse at the southeast corner of Ridge Road and 5 Mile Road. I don't know how many of you would get up there, but that's been, the site is in the process of being cleared right now. They've been working on it for a couple of weeks, so that project is now fully underway.
Yeah, they're moving through.
I had one other question. This is a generic question. On Plymouth Walk, as we all know, trees were a big issue, and the final plan was that I think 60-some heritage trees are going to be preserved. Does the township, is there somebody in the township that is tasked to actually go out and walk that site and make sure that those trees are identified, so that when all the heavy machinery comes in and starts clearing out those trees, that we know which ones are the ones that are to be retained?
You mean prior to construction?
Right.
I don't believe the township has a surveyor employed for that. We have a landscape contractor who's employed for post-construction assessments, but not pre-construction. So they don't duplicate the tree survey that was conducted beforehand.
Boy, okay, sounds pretty risky to me.
Do we
but-
establish the perimeter around a tree?
Yes, we do
so that the
specify.
roots don't get crushed?
Yeah, we specify the distance that must be provided during construction.
Would that be commensurate with the drip line on it?
Actually, a little bit wider. For Plymouth Walk, I specified it be wider because I'm specific about tree roots. But
who actually puts those fences up? Is it the developer or is?
yes, the developer puts them up, and then during construction, when there's periodic visits from our department to check on the process, those are assessed.
Okay.
And then, looking at what Tim brought up, that 5 Mile and Ridge, I've been by there quite a bit in the last week or so, and it's really blighted as far as doesn't appear to be anything that was left in most of that site. Was there a attempt to save any trees in that site?
Not very many, because it was a permitted by right development, they chose replacement over preservation. Whereas with the PUD, we have the leverage to discretionarily require, these trees be preserved, these ones be replaced. But with by right, as long as they meet the replacement ratios, we can't tell them they cannot remove a certain tree.
That term again is by right, you said?
Yeah, so as opposed to
Oh,
a
by right.
special land use, it's permitted by right
Did
as
you
an
hand
industrial
this out to
user.
people?
The difference there is that that piece of land is mostly, it's mostly scrub trees. Wasn't, important heritage trees. And also at the very southern end, there is still a small, it's not small, but in relation to the whole development, it's small area where it's still retaining natural, it's kind of like a ridge like that. So.
And I would like to mention one item to the commission. The site that is opposite that site directly to the west, the one that's already been partially developed that has those 6 parcels on it and the road, that developer, as you know, withdrew a few months ago, and we have had interest from other folks in the township for the redevelopment of that site, but there is no formal submission at this time. We anticipate one will likely come next year.
You're talking about Hillside East?
Yes. So.
They withdrew, meaning they've made their improvements and now they've walked away from it?
No, they received site plan approval and then they
Right.
walked away. They didn't actually do anything to the site after the approval.
Yeah, it didn't work out.
Yeah, so the first developer did that road and a little bit of grading, then it was sold. The second developer attained a new site plan approval, then withdrew, and now it is currently being marketed to a new user.
Are there issues with the site or just the
No, it's
market
just market
economy?
conditions.
Just challenging.
The, right across on Beck Road from the golf course, there's a development, I can't recall the name of it, but it's
Verona Park.
Growing apart.
Rona Park. Is there any update? We've heard different rumors about what may or may not happen there.
Sure. So the Verona Park developer has provided a new elevation plan for administrative review. So basically changing their home design to a ranch style. That's currently in our office in planning, and I'm actually reviewing it this week. And if that is approved, then they'll continue with the same development plan and site layout, just at a ranch style for the home.
Right.
So will
And,
that come back, excuse me, will that come back to us?
It shouldn't need to, because there's no change to the actual layout of the site. It's truly just the design of the home. So as long as it meets standards, it's totally administrative.
Does it sound like that would correlate to a lesser price as far as list price too?
Yes, the construction price would be lower for the ranch style, which is why the developer is pursuing it.
Similar elevations?
Similar overall style, yes. And there might be a slight change in the setbacks. Depending on how substantial that change is, it could come before you. We'll see how they can arrange it on the site. We're hoping they can arrange it in a way that does not affect the setbacks.
Does the developer have an explanation for why there's been no retail interest in the site?
He has just said that market conditions are not favorable. He has not told us if there's something specific to this site that has caused it. So that's our understanding from what he said.
And a similar question on the Purcell property. I see there's never been any dirt turned over. Is that going to be reassessed or reevaluated as far as you know, or?
As far as we know, there's no new development submission for the Purcell property. It's just taking a while to actually close out that file.
I'm sure the market conditions has changed dramatically since that was approved.
On the Verona Park, back to that one. So will the new plans go through the administrative committee just as, so someone on the commission looks at the new elevations and
Yes,
everything?
it would.
Okay.
So the building, footprint, actual envelope would change, but in terms of the site layout, it wouldn't. So it doesn't need to come to the whole planning commission for that.
Okay, thank
But
you.
yes.
I just have a comment on the Plymouth Planning Commission training with MSU. I think it's fantastic that 5 commissioners took the class. And I thought it was totally valuable for our time. And I just wanted to thank the township for sending us to that training.
I'm glad you liked it. So did you all, whoever took the class, did you guys finish it or are you partway through?
I
Yes.
finished.
I finished.
It was
I was
very
sad
good.
to
It was
finish. It
very
was fun.
informative.
Bob, you said you're partway?
I got part of the way, I'm in the self-paced section of it.
Nice. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it, for those of you who finished it, and I'm glad you're currently enjoying it, for those of you who are in it.
Any other concerns with the monthly report or any other miscellaneous comments?
I just have a comment that in January is the election of officers. So all that the commissioners can think about if they wanted to, if they were interested in any of the appointments.
What are the three positions?
Chair, vice chair, and secretary.
Who's vice chair currently? I thought you were
I
secretary.
am.
Currently
I
both.
have been for
both.
like a year and a half.
Yeah.
I thought so.
So just think about it.
I nominate Tim Boyd for vice chair.
But that's, that'll be in January.
Nominate John Edsall.
Thank you.
I
So
think
January.
Tim could be vice chair
I'm
and
flattered, but
secretary.
no.
So just give it some thought for January.
Anything else from anybody? Is there a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
All right.
Okay. Is there support?
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Pastel and supported by Commissioner Boyd to adjourn the meeting at 8:31 PM. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.